Hello, my name is Emily Caccamo, and I'm here with my friend Sarah Fromer. Sarah is a second-year graduate student about to graduate with her master's in forensic technology. She is here to talk about what it's like being Jewish in America today. This podcast is a part of the University of New Haven Welcome Project, a collection of stories about diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Thank you for being here today, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Same with you.
All right, let's just jump right into it because I know we could both talk for ever. So growing up, were you comfortable with your Jewish identity, or was it something you felt you had to hide and be ashamed of?
I think when I was growing up, when you're in elementary school or just really young in general, you aren't aware of people's stereotypes and prejudices. When I was younger, I was really comfortable with being Jewish and, being like, oh yeah, I have Passover, I can't hang out this weekend. Or, oh my gosh, before Christmas, we have Hanukkah, whatnot, just really being out there with it. But I think as I got older and kind of got more into middle school and high school, you realize these prejudices and these problems people have with Jews and really any other group that's not like themselves. And so I think as I got older, I became more conscious of talking about my Judaism and that aspect of my identity. I wasn't uncomfortable with it. I think I've always been comfortable and proud of who I am as a Jewish woman, but I think just as I got older, it was something I realized not everybody's going to be okay with this. Not everyone's going to have an appropriate reaction, if I'm being honest. And so it kind of became something that I more had to temper how I acted in certain situations because of my Jewish identity and how other people act towards Jews.
What kind of made you realize while growing up that you almost needed to be more selective about talking about the fact you were Jewish?
Honestly, the blatant anti-Semitism I started to face, whether or not the people that were saying those things to me realized that it was anti-Semitism. When we'd have days off from school for the high holy days, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and people would be like, oh yeah, day off, woohoo. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to temple, but it'll be nice to be able to have a nice afternoon off or whatever. And people would be like, well, that's all you're good for, getting days off of school. Or if people were annoyed with me, being like, oh, just get back in the oven. Whether or not they meant them in the way that they said them, or if they were just saying these things to be hurtful, I think when you hear those things, you realize that it's perpetuating this huge issue of people hating the Jews. And I was like, you know what? I can't be open about this because you never know which one of these people that harbors these views apparently is going to not just stop with words and might pair actions with that. And listen, I'm not trying to fight anyone. I'm not trying to put myself in dangerous situations. It got a little tense sometimes because it's jarring hearing these people that you've grown up with say these things that are at the end of the day hateful and think nothing of it.
Why did you feel the need to steer away from the traditional Jewish star when you were picking your bar mitzvah jewelry?
So after a year after my bat mitzvah, my parents were like, let's get you something to commemorate it because it's a lot of work getting a bat mitzvah. And there's a lot of studying. It takes about a year to study and everything. So my parents were like, in honor of your hard work, let's get you a commemorative piece. So I wanted a necklace. But I didn't want a Jewish star or the chai, which are the two Hebrew letters that you also will see a lot of people wearing, because I didn't want my necklace or a symbol on me to outwardly confirm my Jewish identity. But I chose to have a Hamza because it's more just Middle Eastern / spiritual. And while it does have meaning in Judaism as the hand of Miriam, it's not specific to Jewish individuals or even religious individuals. And I felt more comfortable wearing something that when I went out into public spaces, there wasn't this target on me, because that's sometimes what it felt like. Because I think it's easy to see with the various religious hatred that people feel in this country and in this world, that there are violent situations that arise all the time. And I didn't want to have a piece of jewelry be the cause of that.
You also mentioned within your high school years that you spoke out about inequality of holidays that your school was trying to take away. What gave you the courage to speak up after becoming more conscious of when you were like speaking out about being Jewish?
I have a younger brother. He's 2 years younger than me. And I had already known, like, going through my school system where the areas were that might cause problems for him in terms of people saying anti-Jewish stuff, anti-Semitism in general. And I knew, even though maybe I wasn't always comfortable with speaking out against it, that if I didn't speak out against it, there weren't enough people around to speak out against it so that my brother didn't have to deal with it. It was a whole committee comprised of religious leaders from the community and other people, including Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism, Hinduism, Muslims in the area, and talking about the holidays, because while Christian and Catholic holidays are federal holidays, other religion holidays aren't. So while you're confirmed to have Good Friday off of school or work or class or whatever, other people don't have that. I never got Rosh Hashanah confirmed off. That was never a guarantee. I didn't want to have to choose between my education or my religion. And I think when you take away just that little piece of representation of knowing that Jews get this day off, that it helps to erase a community that already has not a lot of focus on it. And that goes for Jews, that goes for every other religion that was represented in that meeting. And I felt like if I didn't say anything, how could I count on anybody else to say something? Because while maybe it was something I was more conscious of, I was like, this is the time and a place where it's not about me. I mean, it is, but not just me. It's about my people. It's about a slight towards people that aren't the majority faith. And I was like, I need to do something about this.
Do you think you've faced any hardships in the professional world due to your Jewish identity?
Definitely. I think I'm fortunate to not have worked jobs in an industry that's stereotypically Jewish, like banking or something. I know, like, I have family in that, and they don't really tell people they're Jewish because there is a lot of anti-Semitism in it. But I mean, there was one summer that I worked at a pie shop on Cape Cod, and the owners didn't like me because I was Jewish. There was one day that I had to drive my mom's car to work instead of mine, and my mom at the time had a BMW, which is a German car, and my bosses kind of saw me pull in, and the reaction was, oh my gosh, like, you're a bad Jew because you drive a German car. You must have been okay with the Holocaust. Like, that's
awful.
Like, yeah, it was definitely weird because it was, 6:30 in the morning getting there, and I'm barely awake for the day, and I'm already being confronted with this outright anti-Semitism. And I didn't really know how to respond because, they're my bosses. But I had to kind of be like, well, if my Jewish grandfather that fought in World War II and was in a German POW camp can drive a Mercedes-Benz, then I think we're probably in the clear. So it's definitely facing it with that kind of humor, but also tempering the situation. I don't really tell a lot of people that I'm Jewish in terms of being at work, because you get the typical, oh, why do you need to work? You're Jewish. You probably have enough money. You're fine. And that's just so inappropriate and irrelevant. And I think that sometimes in the workplace, because you're not necessarily working with friends, that might take over. Instead of being like who I am as a person, it'll just be, oh, my Jewish coworker. And that's something I want to avoid.
Yeah, because you shouldn't be, put in a almost basket just based on the fact that you happen to be Jewish.
Exactly. And it's something, especially in the professional environment, not that it shouldn't matter, but that when I'm at my job doing my work, it doesn't matter if I'm Jewish or not. I should still be putting out the same quality. But I think when you add that element of identity to it, sometimes that's all people see.
What gave you the courage to speak out again? Was it the school thing, or was it just kind of like you learned when to say things?
I think a little bit of both. I think part of it was learning when I could bring in my Judaism to a situation constructively, appropriately, and in a way that would be safe, but also that there were going to be other people that were Jewish that maybe didn't have the same sense of self that I do. They would face these things undoubtedly, but they wouldn't have the ability to speak up. And I wanted to speak up for the people that couldn't speak up for themselves and say something, because no one, even if you're not Jewish, no one should have to hear that kind of hateful speech. It's not appropriate. It's not kind. It's not welcoming. And it's not okay. And I wasn't just going to sit by and let that happen.
From growing up to now, do you believe that you've become more comfortable in your Jewish identity and sharing your identity?
I think that I've definitely become more comfortable, not even necessarily like comfortable, but I think just more aware and more knowledgeable about how that identity interacts with all other aspects of who I am as a person. I think that everybody is kind of has those multidimensional aspects to themselves, and it's the intersectionality. And I think I've grown more comfortable with how I can infuse Judaism into other parts of my life, but also where I have those outlets. And that I think I've also realized that I'm so grateful and blessed to have lived a life where I've had hardships because I'm Jewish. It could be worse. And I think that I've just been grateful to grow up and be able to navigate things in a way where I am today, and I'm comfortable with being Jewish, and I'm as best version of myself as I think I could be under the circumstances.
Thank you again. I'm Emily Caccamo, and I was joined by my friend Sarah Fromer. Thank you again for being here today to talk about your experiences being Jewish in America today. This podcast is a part of the University of New Haven Welcome Project, a collection of stories about diversity, inclusion, and belonging. To listen or watch more projects, visit newhavenwelcome.com.